What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is B from the Real Fan Review. I don't see Jav. He's not here today. He's not feeling so well. So tonight it's just me and Al, the man in the chair.
How's it going, everybody?
And so we've got a little bit to talk about tonight. It's just the two of us here. So, not so much. I hope everyone had a happy holiday. I hope the holidays were good for everybody. In terms of movies, we didn't get too much. I know we got Matrix. We were talking about seeing that this week. Matrix Resurrections, the fourth one after what, 18, 20 years?
Basically, yeah.
Oh my goodness, so long. And
hmm
so there's a lot to digest with this one. So we're going to get into a non-spoiler, then a spoiler review of it like we always do. And then we're going to talk about the movies that we're looking forward to in 2022. It's right around the corner. Holy moly.
Yeah.
We got a long list of movies.
Oh, yeah. Like I was saying off the mic, like when I started looking at what was coming out, I forgot some of these movies were coming out, and I couldn't believe how many names I was adding to those lists as I went through what was coming out.
Yeah, and pardon me if I'm mistaken, but a lot of those movies were actually supposed to come out this
Yeah,
year, but
yeah,
because of the pandemic, they got shifted over.
yeah. So it's
So
gonna make it. We thought 2021 was gonna be crazy. 2022 looks just as ridiculous.
that's crazy. All right, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's jump right into the Matrix Resurrections. So we'll do a non-spoiler review first, let you know our rating of the movie, and I'm pretty sure I know Hav's rating of the movie. I haven't heard from Sanj, but I'm pretty sure I know Hav's rating of the movie. If you haven't had the chance to see Matrix Resurrections yet, it's in the theaters, but it's also on HBO Max, which might say a little bit about it, which you need to know, but we'll get into that. So in terms of non-spoilers, Al, what's your take on Matrix Resurrections?
Matrix Resurrection, despite the reviews I've been hearing, I kind of enjoyed the movie. I guess I went in with less, I don't want to say less expectations, but I went in with specific wants for the movie. Basically, I wanted them to give me a reason why there was another movie, and basically how it made sense based on how the last movie ended. I feel like what they were trying to do with the movie, I understood what they were trying to do. I don't think they delivered on that. They're trying to be, I hate this expression, but that social justice warrior type situation. Like I felt like they were trying to say too much political stuff with the movie, with some of the stuff that was going on, where they should have just left it about the Matrix, the way the
Yeah.
original trilogy was. If they had done that and stayed with the aspects of the movie that I did like, I feel they would have probably gotten a better response than they have been. Um, but some of the stuff that they've been getting a backlash on with the movie, especially like the Morpheus character, and a lot of the other aspects of the movie, I don't agree with a lot of the negative reviews. I actually see what they were trying to do. It explains why, to at least to my satisfaction, why Lawrence Fishburne wasn't even approached for the movie, because the movie's basically, and this doesn't ruin anything, it's 60 years after the events of the last movie.
Yeah.
So,
Which was crazy.
yeah, yeah, it took me a second to understand it, to grasp that, even though they outright said it, but it explains now why Lawrence Fishburne's character isn't there, because 60 years of fighting, he probably did pass,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So it makes sense why in the story that they were trying to tell, why he wasn't even approached. Other aspects of the story as to why, Trinity and Neo didn't age as fast as the other character that was still in the movie, that didn't land as well for me. Um, there wasn't a sense of loss or consequence in this movie for me. Um,
Agreed. Nothing. Yeah.
we'll get into it in the spoiler section, but there wasn't. There were fights, but there were no consequence to the fights. There were battles, but there was no potential loss to these battles. Um, but I like Bugs. I liked her character. The naming was ridiculous. That to me, that does lend to why so many people feel this movie was too. I hate to use this expression because I've heard it in too many of the other reviews. Meta. The movie is obviously self-aware. You see clips of the previous trilogy um, throughout the movie. I understand the explanation for why those scenes and clips are in there, At one point, I would have, he's a game developer that's in the preview, so that's not a ruining of it. It would have been a good twist on the original if they had made him a movie actor and that these were film clips from a movie. It would have been really on point and a good callback to the original movie when what was his name? Switch? No, not Switch.
Uh, I think
The
it
guy,
was Yeah, it was
yeah,
or Tanker Dozier, you know.
yeah, yes. The character that turns on them, I forget. I'm drawing a blank on his name. The
Uh,
character
Cypher.
Cypher. When Cypher turns on them and he meets with Smith and he says, "Put me back in as something important, like an actor." Like I thought that would have been a good callback to the original trilogy,
Yeah,
but it made sense for what they were doing with Morpheus' character as to why he had to be a game developer and a programmer.
yeah.
Um, that's what I'm saying. If you look at the small aspects of the movie and what they were doing, I liked the overall. I just don't think they landed a lot of what they were trying to do with the movie.
So what's your review?
If you're a fan of the original, definitely go back. There's enough nostalgia in this movie and enough callbacks for you to enjoy the movie. Just don't expect it to be the original trilogy.
And would you say theaters or HBO Max?
Honestly, I saw it in both. I saw it the opening, when it came out that Wednesday. I saw it in IMAX. It does add to the enjoyment of the movie.
I thought it would. I thought it would.
Just the enjoyment, because the explosions, the fight scene, everything just seems like more immersive because you're literally surrounded and engulfed in the sound and the visuals. But in terms of the enjoyment of the story, I think you'll enjoy that better at home, where you can pause it, rewind it, and say, "Wait, what did they say again?" or so forth. So in terms of the experience, theater. In terms of the story, definitely at home so you can rewind and so forth, at least for the next 30 days while it's still there.
Cool, cool. And yeah, Al, I pretty much agree with everything you said. In watching this movie was 2.5 hours, and thinking about this movie some odd days later, I don't remember much of it. Like it's not very rememberable. Like not a lot of significant things happen, and like there's a lot of callback, to the past movies and some upgrades to certain things here and there, but it's just not. It kind of seemed like a pass and go kind of thing, like, oh, it happened just to say it, and now we're gonna move on, and it was like, all right. So, but yeah, in terms of the reviews, I went into this with all positive reviews. I heard nothing but positive. So they said this was the best sequel ever. This is changing the game. And I went into it and I was really hyped up. And I think I overhyped myself on this because, and I think I told you, like, I wasn't so concrete on this
Yeah.
movie. Like, when I saw the first trailer, visually, it's stunning. Visually, the whole entire movie is beautiful. It's great, but like I just didn't understand where they were going and why there needed to be this fourth movie. And I guess a lot of the movie in the beginning actually explores that same concept, which is kind of weird, very, as the word is, meta,
Yeah.
so it was very interesting. Um, I will say I felt like the acting from the newer group of people to be in the movie was pretty on point. And was I wrong in saying that one of the people was from the Squid Games? I
I don't.
believe one of the lady characters was from the Squid Games.
Oh,
She
really?
was, yeah, I think so. She looked really familiar. But Jessica Henwick, incredible. I love
Yeah.
Jessica Henwick. She is probably the best thing that come out of Iron Fist. Like
The only
she
thing to.
the only thing to come out of Iron Fist, and I think she's incredible. Her
Yeah.
acting is on point. I think her role in this movie, while it was kind of weird at the start, made a bit more sense later, and it worked well. Back to our legacy characters, there are some callbacks from the last couple movies. In terms of Keanu Reeves, I love Keanu. I think he's one of the most incredible people on the earth. But there was something about his acting in this movie that was a little off for me.
Yeah.
Like, like it seemed like he was trying to be Neo from the
Hmm.
last three, but with a hint of like Johnny Utah slash like, like I don't know, like it was weird. Like it seemed like he was reprising Dumb and Dumber 3, like, and it was kind of weird in some spots.
Yeah, like and I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be him like realizing something's wrong and trying to remember, but they never made it was never consistent.
Yeah, it was like it was either like when, and I don't want to spoil anything, but when he is, this is the Matrix, when he's not in the Matrix, he's very Neo and it works well. But when he's in the Matrix, it's not consistent. The acting is weird. It's a little uncomfortable, and I'm a little unsure of what's happening. You know,
Yeah,
it was a little weird for me in terms of Keanu. Carrie Ann Moss, though, incredible. I think she did great. You know, Yaya, incredible. So overall, the acting in this movie, I really enjoy. I actually really enjoyed Jonathan Groff, you
yeah,
know, as his character, which we'll get into in the spoilers. Um, Neil Patrick Harris, I will say, as intriguing as his character is set out to be, I'm not sold on it. You know, it's like they wanted Doogie Howser, but like just for the fact that they didn't want him to fight anybody, you know,
hmm
like so I don't
yeah,
know. It was kind of weird. So I would say in terms of my review, it's okay. You know, I honestly feel like this movie didn't have to be made. I enjoy that it was, and I enjoyed moments of this movie, you know, and I like where they were going. Just like you said, Al, just a lot of it didn't stick.
yeah.
Um, I wouldn't rush to see it, you know, to be honest with you. And you have it available on HBO Max for the next 30 days. So I would say if you're a really die-hard Matrix fan and you love the trilogy, go see it in the theaters if you feel safe and comfortable to do so. But if you don't really care so much, put it on HBO Max, you know, and
Yeah.
take the 2.5 hours and pause it when you want, play it when you need to.
hmm
Um, that's the honesty of it for me, and I think Javi feels the same. From from when I took a trip to my house this week and all my family watched it, my mom was like, "Eh." So I'm pretty sure Javi feels just about the same as us.
Yeah.
So that's our non-spoiler. There's as crazy as to say there's not a lot happened in this movie, but there is a lot of spoiler. So let's just jump into the spoiler section of this so that way we can talk about these characters and a lot of the events that happened here. So we're gonna jump to our spoilers in five, four, three, two, and one. Why are there two Agent Smiths in this movie?
And see, and that goes to my comment before in terms of why I understand there was no Lawrence Fishburne because one, like I said, it's 60 years in the future. Neo knows something's wrong, but he's been getting drugged for 60 years with the
60
blue pill.
years. Yeah.
He's 60 years of steady blue pill every couple of hours. So and he's been convinced that any memory he has of what happened before is just some psychological displacement of the events he created for his game.
And that was
So
the one thing I really stuck to. I'm like, oh shit, like that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So I like the fact that they did that because yes, it's meta. Yes, you're incorporating and making yourself self-aware of the original trilogy, but it explains to me and my satisfaction why they were able to control him so much, even
Yeah,
though he was the one, was that you were tricking him into thinking those memories are not real.
yeah.
That's what you made for the game. Remember, see, look, here's your game that you
Here's your
made.
game. Look, you're trying
Yeah,
to make another one.
let's go have you see a therapist because clearly something's wrong with you. And then it just repeats that cycle. Every time he has a memory, no, that's just your game. Here, take a blue pill. Now and then that probably went on for 60 years.
Yeah.
And and I think this is it's not a new Matrix, just a reprogramming of the original. And
Hmm.
that's why later in the movie you hear them threaten that they were gonna revert back to the old Matrix
Yeah.
because everybody's still plugged in, nobody was disconnected. All the original batteries, so to speak, that copperheads as they call them in the movie, they're still connected. They were never disconnected.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that you have him as a programmer. He knows something's off. He wants to realize what's going on. Is it possible to realize that you're not in a real world? So he creates that modal. and he incorporates the two people he knew that their world wasn't real, which was Agent Smith and Morpheus.
Yeah.
And he creates them, and then because he wants somebody to help bring this character out, he left the modal open for a hacker to get in. So like all these slights that the movie is getting for those aspects, I think are incorporate well
I
for
think that
the
was great. I
story.
think that was the best part.
Yeah. Where they lose me with the story is the analyst position. So like you said, Neil Patrick Harris's character, like that's where the movie went too political. They were clearly commenting on fake news and social media,
Yeah.
how people are easy to believe whatever they want because it
They're always
addresses.
going to want to be plugged in.
They don't care about facts. They just care about what's being said that based on what they feel and
Yeah.
not what's real. You know, they no longer care about what's real. They just care about what fills their narrative and what they believe and feel to be right.
Yeah.
So, like, it was to me, that's where when you kept going to that political narrative, that's where the movie kept losing me because this should have just been a movie of what it originally was, free will and choice, because you still have the presentation of the pills. You know, Bugs, when she meets Morpheus and she wants to bring him out, she gives him a red and a blue pill, and she says, "You have to pick it." And I like their spin on that. That choice is just an illusion. You and the way you are, you already know the choice. And think about it: if you've already advanced to the point where you question that reality, if given the option of realizing that it's not true, of course you're going to take that option. You're not going
Yeah.
to take the option to stay deceived. You already question your reality. So the option of realizing that that reality is fake, as she says, the decision was already made for you. So there
Yeah.
was no choice. So I
Yeah.
like that play on it, that you already know what you're going to do. So the presentation of a choice is
It's
kind
just
of,
allowing you to have some kind of physical representation of that
yeah.
choice.
So I like that. I like when they bring in Trinity later in the movie and you find out that she's married with kids. And she even says, I don't think I even ever wanted kids. It's funny
Yeah.
what, that I have them just because I was programmed to. And how, we have these societal pressures on us to be a certain way, even though it may not be the way we want to and so forth. So there was a lot of questions in this movie
Yeah.
that they like, just like there were in the original, but they
Yeah.
kept going back to the analysts and this and
That,
and
yeah. And you're touching on a lot of things here that like really changed like my thoughts on the movie for a lot of it. And I'll go back to the Morpheus. Yeah, 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 do. That's how we started the movie with, him getting the red pill and blue pill, and he was an agent, right? And I think that was the most interesting change for me from the original trilogy is that the acknowledgement that because I'm thinking like this is Morpheus plugged in somewhere else, and they made him into an agent. That's what I
mm,
thought of the first movie at the beginning. And then it was like, no, he's a program. And I was like, so programs can leave the Matrix now? And like, when they gave him the choice and he got to leave, and we see him later as though it was like electronic nanobites, right?
yeah,
Like to see that advance had happened, I was like, oh shit, that's actually pretty cool. Like I like that even a program can change their mind and leave the Matrix and kind of help out. And they said it, the war with Zion, because of Neo, machines changed sides and decided to
yeah,
help out. And I thought that was a really cool twist.
hmm
And then, especially in the beginning of the movie, I thought that whole first hour of the movie was my favorite part because even I'm sitting there like not sure if what I saw the trilogy was even real. Like, did that happen? What's going on here? Because they had me believing that Neo's crazy.
yeah,
They had me thinking this guy's nuts. And so I'm like, wait, what is real? Like, I was like, are they just playing a video game? Is this movie just going to be him having to play this video game to help his mental health? I was like, where are we going with this? I'm like, this is crazy. And then when they started doing the subtle Neo, this isn't real thing, he starts seeing things. I'm like, oh, he's either going crazier or there's something fucked up about Neil Patrick Harris's character, you know? And that leads me to the analyst. Like I really enjoyed his position in the first half of the movie as the person that's there to keep Neo bound to this matrix by instilling that this is, that he's going through some mental health. He attempted suicide. This is all a part of that PTSD. This is, his recovery. Every time he feels shaky, just come talk to him. And I was like, oh shit, like what
Hmm.
is going on here? But then, like, I hate what they did with him later. You know, I don't want to skip too far into the third act, but the fact that he controls so much of the Matrix that the Matrix is more like I mean, it's even more of a simulation than it was before because he has total control. It's like when you're a mod and you just mod everything on the spot kind of a thing. And it's just like, is it much? Is it
Hmm.
necessary? Is it needed? So for him at the end of the movie to be like this all powerful thing and he doesn't even need to do anything was kind of like I guess the architect, we could relate to that, but the architect wasn't as forward, which he does talk about, his predecessor,
Yeah.
was very laid back and he wanted to be more forward. So I was like, all right, but I felt like it was a little much.
Hmm.
Um, but Jessica Henwick's Bugs, I like the fact that she was the part of a different matrix that Neo was able to start putting the pieces to, and he was broke free. He didn't fall off the
Yeah.
building. She saw that, and that was her, her need to kind of break free. So I like that a lot. What was your take on Io and its replacement of Zion?
Actually, I like that take and that replacement um of Zion because it's um what's his name? Jada Pinkett Niobe's response in terms of why they made this change, I felt was appropriate. When she said Zion never worked because it was about us or them. She goes, IO is working because it's us and them.
Yeah,
And it's about that balance. Like you can't, it's, like with any situation, if everybody's just fighting for it's me or you, and not looking for that common ground that can be okay, what solves me and you, then you're not going to find that common ground and you'll always be at war. And that's why she said, what makes as much noise as the Matrix? War. And so everything about her stance I understood.
yeah,
And then once she found that peace and that balance in Io, she didn't want to risk it. And that's why she was so dead set against everything they were doing. So I understood her point of view, where she was coming from. And I thought that if you're a general and you're looking for that peace and you want to continue that peace, I understood where her stance was coming from because she found that balance between her and machines. It
yeah.
was just the group from each side, the machines that wanted to end the peace and the people that just wanted to stay in oblivion, that she was trying to find that balance for.
hmm
You know.
I really like the aspect there, especially in the terms of like their technology and what they were able to do in the real world because of their alliance with the machines that had changed sides. Like, they made the strawberry out
And-
of code, you
yeah.
know, to taste like it should, to be like it should, to grow like it should, and that was with the help of a machine, a
Hmm.
program. And like I was like, I thought that was really cool that the fact that they were able to bring all that in to the real world, you know. I think the craziest thing for me was the time skipped, which was kind of weirdly, you know, done, I thought, but I like the idea of the time skip. I just think the
Mm.
mechanics of how it affected Neo and Trinity was very weird.
Yeah.
But like when Niobe showed up on the screen, and I was like, what? I
Who's it?
was
Yeah. I
like,
was like, who's that?
I sat there. I was like, I'm supposed to know who you are, and you're old as shit.
Yeah.
What
Yeah. Like
was your
why?
take on that 60-year jump?
Yeah, that's where they kind of lost me. Like, why did Niobe and her body age the 60 years that took place so that she obviously now looks like an 80 something year old woman? But meanwhile, Neo and Trinity only aged what, their 20 something years. Like, was it
Yeah.
that they were, and this is goes to a couple of other things that I don't feel they, if they had stopped with the messaging that they were trying to do and focused on the mechanics of the movie and what you were trying to sell, they would have done a little bit better. People may have been a little bit more satisfied with the movie. One, what about that restoration process that you told in 5 seconds of dialogue restored, not only restored their body, like understand, fine, it was expensive and it costs a lot the way the analyst says, but what did you do? How did you save their body from
Yeah.
aging so fast?
They
Was it
brought them
some,
back to life, like in everything.
not only did you bring them back to life, but you restored their body so that there was not even scarring on Neo's body from when his eyes were burned. You stopped their aging process so that they aged a third of the time as another human would have aged. So I would have liked to have heard, how did you do that in the real world?
Yeah.
Um, how were they able to get in and out of the matrix without the phones now? They just
Oh
have,
yeah, they kind of just did it. I
yeah,
thought it
Bugs
was
just,
cool, but they just
yeah.
did it.
And then they don't even explain it. Bugs just turns around and says, "Oh yeah, we don't even need phones anymore, or to get out now, or something like that."
Jumping through mirrors.
Yeah. And then another thing is terms that they never explained from the first Matrix, and they still didn't address it now, is why do they have an impact on the real world? Like, I understand, okay, it's Neo and Trinity, and you want to say, okay, when they were their bodies were restored, somehow they use DNA or body, whatever physical body parts from each other to restore each other and bring their bodies back. And maybe now that's why in the code,
She can be the one.
she can be the one because the system now sees them as the same. That's fine. All right, I could go with that. Um, but why in the real world does them being next to each other generate so much more energy? Like, I
Yeah,
don't.
the power of love.
Yeah, come on. Like
That's what got me.
yeah, their bodies physically being close enough to each other, but not too close. They were able to generate so much power. Like, that's the part where you know what, you take me out. Come on, that.
I completely agree. The second that was explained of their restoration and why they had to keep resetting the matrix and why they had to keep doing X and Y and Z and how they're the power source for the whole machine city. And I was like, the power of love, like that's very 1986. Like, like
Mm,
let's end this power of love thing, man. Like there's nothing that explains how her human body, because he was the one, and like you said, it was never explained in the first one how when he was in the real world he was able to stop machines by putting out his hands. Like it was never explained why he's so special or how he can continue to be so special, um, other than some kind of code, but that should be in the Matrix, not in the real world. So the
mhm,
fact that her, never having been, I don't want to say not special, but her never being like the one and having that special ability, now all of a sudden, because of his love for her and her love for him, their power when they touch is the solar power of the sun. Like, like it was so out there for me that I had no idea how that could even be possible. Like it was just weird. And
mhm,
then for her to then, I didn't hate the fact that she was now like the one, or has the abilities of the one. I just didn't think it was explained. Like it was just all of a sudden, oh, I can fly too.
mhm.
I can now stop bullets. I can now do X, Y, and Z. Even though we didn't see her do anything other than fly, it's
Mhm.
insinuated now that they're both the
Oh
ones.
yeah, no. At the end, remember, she even controlled the analyst at the
Oh
end.
yes, yes, she
She
did. She
was
did.
snapping her finger, and she was so yeah, and like, yeah, like how, I don't care that she has it. I'm not against her having it. Fine, they're the team. They're together. They're the duo. No problem. Just explain it. Like,
Yeah,
make it make sense to me so that I can understand, how did she go from the first trilogy where she had no abilities to
yeah,
now she's on his level. I'm okay with her being on his level. Just explain how she got there. And
yeah.
they didn't do that.
And speaking about Trinity, so like her role in all of this, as you said, it was interesting because the Matrix apparently was built around Neo and Trinity. This new Matrix was built around them, and they were the focal points of the whole things. And the whole point of it was to keep them close, but not too close. So that's why she had the family that she didn't want. She never wanted kids, but she had the kids, she had the husband. But let's make sure that she loves him enough that she'll continue to have coffee dates with Thomas Anderson. I was like, that was a little weird for me. Like, you're saying now that she was like that infidelity a little bit. Like, you know what? I'm 50 years old, but I think I'm gonna have that cup of coffee with this guy every day because he seems nice. Like,
Yeah,
so it's like it was kind of weird how they set that up. I was just like, I can see what they were going with, but it was very odd in the approach. I
yeah,
would have just preferred she was just like the lady who never found love, the same way as Thomas Anderson. Like, like I understand giving her the family was the anchor to her in the Matrix,
hmm
but like I feel like the way it was done and then how she develops intimacy and a romance with Neo was very odd. I guess it was very 2020 in terms of
yeah,
like Tinder and all those other dating apps and the psychological approach of people and cheating and infidelity. Like I guess that's all incorporated into this movie. They incorporated it so much, but it was a very odd approach.
hmm
Especially, I don't want to go to the end yet because I want to talk about Jonathan Groff, but especially the end of the movie, that third act, when it's the choices has to be made for this Matrix program to, either cease or continue. Like I thought that was a bit much.
yeah.
So like it was weird. But I want to go now into Jonathan Groff's character as Agent Smith. Is this only because Hugo Weaving didn't want to come back?
Yes. No, well, I don't know if he didn't want to come back. I think he had prior engagements, prior arrangements where he was obligated to other movies or um, obligations, so to speak, contractually. So he wasn't available for the filming, I think.
Mhm.
But even if they had brought back Hugo Weaving, I don't understand the Agent Smith character being brought back.
I have no idea why he was in this movie, to be
If
honest.
I could understand the Neo, because you have a totally new program that found a purpose for him or said, oh, I think I could do something with the one's code, so to speak.
Yeah.
Fine, it makes sense as to, okay, why Neo is still around. And even Trinity, based on what you're trying to go with the context of the story. But Smith, why would anybody? He almost destroyed their entire matrix. Why would the higher ups, as he called them, the suits, why would the suits in of the Matrix say, yeah, leave this Smith character around, just bury it in another body or skin or
Yeah,
whatever they.
that's what it makes sense to me either. Like this guy became so aware that he essentially at one point was the Matrix.
Hmm
Like
Yeah,
why
and
would you bring him back?
and if there was a purge strong enough that you were able to get rid of the architect, the
The
Oracle,
Oracle.
and why wouldn't you get rid of Smith in this purge? Why was he still around? And that's the part where I mean, I understand that you use him at the end, and because he was able to get around the laws of the Matrix, and he was able to then fight the analysts at the end. But you could have had that be Neo, because that was Neo's role as the one as
Yeah,
well. His
exactly.
his code could have found any loophole. So even with this new bullet time 2.0 that the analysts had, Neo should have been able to push through it. So what a better scene for me at the end would have been a second round of that freeze time where the analyst is moving around, and then all of a sudden you see Neo start speeding up and catching up to him in time.
Yeah. Like
And
I didn't understand Neo's role as the one when he couldn't do anything.
yeah,
Especially when he realized he was the one, when it finally clicked that I'm Neo, I'm the one, couldn't fly. Yeah, he could put his hands out and stop bullets
yeah, he
like
had
he did
force
in the
push
trailer.
ability now.
Yeah, he's a four push. He was doing this in the whole movie. I knew he was gonna do it. I told you guys in the trailers, I'm like, I hope this movie isn't 2 hours of him doing this. And
Yeah.
what was it? 2 hours of him doing this. I was like, oh my gosh. but like can't fly, is stuck, is weak, is couldn't do anything until Trinity became the one, and then like it wasn't really explained like because when Trinity became the one and she could fly, he still couldn't do anything. And then out of nowhere, they come up in their black trans shoots and like, yeah, we're both the ones now, and we can both fly again. It
Yeah.
wasn't explained like how did you get your power back? You know, like you didn't have it.
Yeah.
Um, but like I felt like they did it just for a callback in some essence. Like I did like that he was his boss. You know, he was his partner, and
Hmm.
his partner was driving crazy, and they had a bad relationship. Oh, you made your main character after me. But you know, I was just like, all right, that's an interesting duality there. Um, but in the honesty of it, he came in for one scene in the warehouse where the Merovingian came back, which was I thought was a nice callback. As weird as it was with the exiles, I thought
Yeah.
it was a nice callback. He came into the warehouse, fought Neo for maybe 4 minutes, then went away. Came back at the end to be like, "I'm here to help, but I'm everywhere," and walks away. I was like, "What was your point?" Like I
Hmm.
would have preferred if the plan is for another sequel or another trilogy, I would have preferred they introduced him, he became aware, but kind of just put himself off. It's kind of like an Easter egg for another sequel that
Yeah.
he's now aware. You know, this could have been at the end of the movie, like he understands who he is and just kind of goes, Mr. Anderson. Like, you know, like I was waiting for something like that. But like the fact like just to bring him to do a fight scene and bring him in to stop the analyst for a hot second and then disappear, I thought was kind of a waste. I didn't think it was needed.
Yeah. 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 There was. It just goes to like where they did nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, but it didn't advance the story.
Yeah,
And another aspect that I have an issue with the movie was that there was no consequence.
no consequence.
You have all these fights, these battles, guns and machine guns shooting, and nobody dies. I mean, not that
Nobody
I
dies, barely gets hurt.
yeah. I mean, in the first trilogy, I mean, in the first movie, we got to know these characters. I mean, you had what was his name? The guy that was able to do all the programs.
Oh
Um,
yeah, was it
that
Tank?
well, we had Tank Bozer. Oh God, the guy who did the programming. I forget his name.
Oh, Sid, was it Sid?
I forget his
I
name. Hold
forget.
on. But they all die in the movie.
Yeah,
So here you are, you're having a movie and there's no consequence. They all can fight. I mean, they walk into a Starbucks full of FBI guys, and you're telling me not one of them got hit by a bullet? Not one of them dies? Like what's the consequence of this if you're telling me that nobody's going to die? And
there
that's
was
where
no consequence.
and
The
that's why they lost me because you felt that there was a battle. You felt there was a war going on.
yeah,
And I didn't get that feeling here. And like, there was they all made it through, they all made it out. I mean, you have that swarm scene and not one of them gets it there. Like, I mean, you
yeah,
have literally
yeah.
bodies coming from the sky as human bombs and nobody there's not one loss, nobody breaks a leg, no nothing.
That's my biggest problem with the entire third act of the movie. That like I actually if the movie had ended before the third act and just kind of left on a cliffhanger, I think I would have liked the movie more
Yeah.
because that entire third act was so like out of nine. Like for everything you just said, the the Matrix now put bots into people so that way it can control people, more people that are inconspicuous and aren't just agents anymore. They can
Hmm.
be activated on a whim. So you have bots who are pretty much every other person. They're falling from the sky, you know, basically kamikaze bombs. You have the entire crew of IO, every captain from IO and their crew is all in the Matrix. Nobody dies.
Hmm.
There's literally nothing but guns, and Neo is the only person who can stop anything, and nobody dies. You have the analyst who is just sitting in a chair for most of the time, but he is the most powerful supreme being. He doesn't do anything other than sit and gets pushed over by Agent Smith. for a
Hmm.
second, and then the whole this is where this lost me the most is in order to stop the analysts, Trinity needed to make the decision to leave the Matrix, right? I understood that why that had to be the last thing, but the whole scene where it's just like it felt like The Bachelor, where Neo is standing in the police station and Trinity walks in and she has to choose whether she wants to leave with him or not. That was like, the hell am I watching? I was
Yeah.
like, you're telling me like it's not weird to you that you just walked into a police station, everyone's staring at you, and he's just like, you have to choose Trinity. I was like, this is awkward. Like it was a very awkward scene. Like I would be like, what the hell's going on? What are all these police doing? Neo, what's going on? Like, I would react a little bit more surprised than she did. She walked in, she was like, oh, Neo. Like I was like, you don't see all these officers pointing at guns like and I was like, you don't see all this? Is it
No,
is it because he's the one he could see them? And I was
no, no,
like, what's going
no. And then
on?
as she's leaving, she turns around and she sees him bent over a table, almost basically with a gun to his head, and she doesn't.
Just walking away.
Peace. I gotta go talk to my daughter. Hold on. Like what?
Um, yeah, like that whole scene was very awkward. I was like, listen, if I had seen that, I would know something is up. I'm like, I gotta leave with you right now. Like, this is not right. It
Yeah.
was very awkward. And then, like, let's be honest, there wasn't like an action scene. It was an escape,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah.
wasn't really the most interesting escape, to be honest. Like, okay, they're on a motorcycle driving through the city, bodies are falling, trying to stop them. Then they call 5 helicopters. Like, as like after all of this, like we just need to open a door or go through a mirror in order to leave the Matrix. I don't
Yeah.
understand why they didn't just do that. Like
Yeah.
they had to leave some way. Oh, through the birds, through the flock of birds that she saw. I was
uh,
like, it was just, it was just very weird. And then, like at the same time, like you said, there's no consequence. The only consequence of the movie is Trinity saying no and the Matrix still going. But that doesn't mean that was her only chance to say no. Like the consequence, okay, she says no, Neo has to go back into the Matrix.
hmm.
But considering that they said over the span of 60 years, they kept breaking the Matrix, it would have just happened again.
Hmm.
Like, and it's not that the humans don't know where they are now. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt like there was no consequence because they made it so. Like, if the only consequence is that the Matrix keeps going, well, you just told me in the span of 60 years they kept breaking the Matrix.
Hmm.
So it's going to happen again. So
Yeah.
that was really it for me. And I was just like, I don't really know what's happening. And then the end, where they come in the obviously the all black set, get up. They change their outfits. Keanu Reeves looks a little weird in his outfit now. It's not as smooth as it used to look. But like the whole analyst is still around. He's watching, and they're watching him, and they're gonna change the Matrix for the better. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, what are we gonna
Yeah.
do?
And then his point was, no matter what you do, and this is where again it was more of that political message. Like
Political, yeah, let's go
people
political.
like to be manipulated. They like to be just told that what they feel is right. So they'll never choose to leave.
Yeah,
So like I just would have rather them stay with the away from the whole message and leave it about truth and choice.
yeah,
you know like,
agree.
oh, even if you and just leave the last message of, nobody's going to want to leave because they're going to choose to stay. Just leave it about choice. Don't leave it about, oh, they like to be deceived. Again, you're just throwing salt on that, trying to insult a certain group. Where these movies, this isn't a political movie, so there should, to me, there shouldn't be a political message. Like if you want to make a mess,
Exactly.
if you want to make a message, fine, go make another movie for that. Like this was a movie that had certain themes throughout, and now you're overtaking those themes. Just leave it about choice. Just leave it about truth versus fact versus fiction or whatever you want to make it. but don't. To me, I guess because I knew that they were trying to be heavy-handed about fake news and everything that's going on now.
Yeah.
Like, but you didn't incorporate that into the movie. Like
No.
you didn't bring up social media. You didn't bring up news. Like, they never once showed a news outlet on the TV, and that's how they were being fed this misinformation or whatever. So to kind of keep going back into, oh, people like being manipulated, people like being lied to, you didn't show that.
No.
So you
Not at
didn't
all.
show. You're just saying it, and I don't. I guess I would have liked more showing
Yeah.
of what what's so enticing of this manipulation. Like, show me the people being manipulated.
And from what I saw, there was no choice in being manipulated because they were just coding people, bots into people. So
Yeah.
then they didn't really get the choice. You just made it so that there was extra security.
Hmm.
So yeah. So Al, what are you thinking? You thinking there's going to be a sequel?
I feel that this was the setup, and that's why Neo throughout the movie is so delayed in his progression.
Yeah.
Like, I think this was all to set up the next movie. Like,
Mhm.
they must have said, "Oh, this is a Matrix movie. We're making another trilogy." So a lot of whatever, like everything we're saying that should have been in this movie, they probably plan on putting in the next movie.
Yeah.
This was showing how Neo and Trinity found each other again, but it dragged out for, like you said, 2.5 hours. Like, whatever you were putting into, you should have put in here to make this more of a complete movie and make us want the sequel. Don't
Mhm.
don't make us feel that there's gonna be a sequel because you didn't tell everything here.
Yeah.
Like, make us want the sequel, not expect it.
Exactly. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So you heard it here first. Matrix, it was okay. It was just very convoluted and an already convoluted franchise, And like I feel the same. Like there's gonna be a sequel, and I don't necessarily know if I want it, but obviously I'm gonna see it just to see if they improve on it. We'll see what happens. But in terms of sequels, in terms of new things coming, let's move forward into this new year that's coming up in like 5 days. We're heading into 2022, and there is a sea of movies coming out. And just so you guys have a kind of an inkling of the movies coming out, let me just read off some to you guys that are the expected, the ones that we are very excited to see probably. Number one on this list, Doctor Strange 2. It's the MCU. We're all very excited for MCU. We got Scream after what, 15 odd
Yeah.
years, another Scream movie. We have Tom Holland's Uncharted. We have Fantastic Beasts 3, The Secrets of Dumbledore. If you guys like Fantastic Beasts, I know I hated those. I think Javi calls them the Fantastic Beats. Fantastic Beats series. You've got Jeepers Creepers is coming out again with a new, I think a restart
Yeah, I
to
think
the
they're rebooting it.
franchise.
Yeah.
Sonic 2. We have Morbius, so another MCU, which, I told you guys I'm not the biggest fan of Jared Leto, but it's MCU, so I'm excited. Let's see what else we have. We have Lightyear. We have The Batman. So we have Halloween Ends. We have Super Mario Bros. Possibly Aquaman's coming out if it's
Yeah.
not delayed again. It's supposed to. Spider-Man, the sequel to Into the
Yeah.
Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah.
Cross Part 1, right?
Yeah.
We have potentially the Black Panther sequel, I believe.
Wakanda
Wakanda
Forever.
Forever.
Yep.
And then Jurassic World 3 Dominion, Black Adam, Thor Love and Thunder. Like that's literally like 12 movies that I just said
Okay.
that are all coming out between January and next January. Like that's nuts that we could have a whole year of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that are the pandemic-based movies that got pushed back because of production, because of COVID, X, Y, and Z. So this is looking to be a really exciting year. I mean, this year was pretty exciting as it was. We got
Yeah.
incredible Marvel movies, all those Disney Plus shows. We had incredible movies that came out. So Al, is there top 3 movies that you're looking forward to next year?
I don't know. Top three would probably be the Batman, Uncharted, I don't know. There's too many.
There's too many.
Yeah, because I keep wanting to change those top three, but definitely I would say the Batman. You got Doctor Strange 2. Definitely have to see that one. And then 3 can be any one of another ones. I mean, you didn't mention Top Gun, the new
Oh,
Top
Top
Gun
Gun
coming
Maverick.
out.
Yeah. Oh my
There's supposed
goodness.
to be another Mission Impossible coming out. Creed 3, from what I understand,
Oh
might be
my
coming out
goodness.
next year.
This year is gonna be stacked. We're gonna be in
Yeah.
the movie theater every week.
And the sequel that took the longest to come out, I think Avatar 2 is.
Oh gosh, supposedly.
I put a question mark on that one because I mean, I've been hearing about Avatar 2
Since
since Avatar
2009.
1 came out. Yeah. So that one is supposedly on the books for next year. Um, and a movie that I don't think needed a sequel is apparently getting a sequel, and it's on the books for next year. So I'll definitely watch it just because it's a horror movie. Is The Legend of La Llorona?
Oh really?
Yeah. So the first one was The Curse of, and that came out I think 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a sequel in the works, and it's coming out next year as well.
Mhm.
So definitely I'll have to check out that one. And The Tragedy of Macbeth with Denzel Washington. Yeah. So
Oh, we got Denzel back.
that's what I'm
Hopefully it's
saying.
better than the little things.
Yeah. Oh, please. They need to give him something better. But the trailer looks good for it. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping that it is a deserving movie of him as the main lead. So
I'm excited.
yeah,
Yeah,
kid.
same here. Like I'd love to give a top three, but there are so many movies coming out that, like, from Doctor Strange, the Batman, Thor, Love and Thunder, like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. We know nothing about it, not
Yeah.
even a trailer yet, and it's coming out this year. Like I can't. I literally can't wait. My one hope is that there's so many movies that are coming out that we've looked at these trailers now, some of these, and we're
Yeah.
like, damn, I hope this is okay. Damn,
Yeah,
I hope
kid.
this is good. Like, I'm excited to see the Batman, but I'm still very worried about the Batman.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Even though they
The
released a new trailer yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not watching it. I'm not watching it because I understand from what I hear, it gives a little bit more of the plot of the movie, and I don't want to know it. So I'm not watching that one.
I haven't
And
seen
the
it yet either.
and the one that as of right now I already kind of want to block out is the next Black Panther.
Mm,
I want to see what they do with that when I go into the theater. I don't like. I mean, because that's a big undertaking for them. I
yeah,
mean, you have a
huge.
beloved character and an incredible actor to replace. So I don't want to see how they handle that until I'm in the theater. I don't want it
Agreed.
because I don't want to know what they did to affect
They're gonna do
my.
one of those stupid things where, like, the whole trailer shows nothing, and then that last second they see somebody put on the Black Panther suit. Like, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
so mad.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to know anything about the plot until I sit down in the theater. So that one, for that reason alone, is why I would probably black out that whole anything related to Black Panther until it's out.
So I really hope, like, I don't know. I talk about trailers all the time, and I say how much I talk about trailers all the time because I mean it. Like, I sincerely hope that, like, one of these days an MCU movie especially comes out like 2 days after a trailer comes out. Like, I want to see, like, a trailer and it's like in theaters now. I'm like, oh shit, we gotta go. Like, like that's what I want so bad. I want to know nothing and then go to a movie, be like,
Hmm.
that's all I want.
Yeah.
So, you hear it here, folks. There's a lot to watch. There's a lot coming out this year. We just talked about the Matrix Resurrections.
Oh, and let's not forget next week the Reelys. So yeah,
Ooh, we gotta give away some awards.
we have this year's Reelys coming out. Harvard's already putting together the categories, the contestants for each category. So it should be interesting. We always have a fun take on awards. So we'll see what 2021 brings us and who are the winners for this year.
Oh gosh, I'm really thinking some categories right now. All right, folks, you hear it here. So thank you guys to our podcasters, our YouTubers. Thanks for checking us out. We got my boy Al in the chair.
Have a good day, everybody.
I'm B, obviously, you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Till next time.